The obelisk floated in the darkness of dead space like a forgotten god. It was old, older than any star that still burned, older than the oldest species in the Galactic Coalition. Some scientists believed it was older than the universe itself, built by hands that existed before time had a name. For 300 years, the galaxy's greatest minds had tried to open it. They had failed. Stood at the observation window of the research vessel Starling Dawn and stared at the massive structure. It was shaped like a spear pointing at nothing, its surface covered in symbols that no translator could read. Lights pulsed along its body in patterns that seemed almost alive. Beautiful, terrifying, silent. "You are looking at it again," said a voice behind him. Turned to see walking toward him with 2 cups of coffee. She was which meant she spent her life trying to understand languages that were never meant for human ears. She had dark eyes that always seemed to be studying something, and a small smile that appeared when she found something interesting. Right now, she was studying him. "I cannot stop thinking about it," admitted. He took the coffee from her hands. 300 years. Every species in the coalition has tried. They sent their best scientists. They sent their priests. They tried to communicate through light and crystal. Nothing worked. "And 17 ships were destroyed," added. She stood beside him and looked at the obelisk. "The Sentinel does not like visitors." The Sentinel was the name they had given to whatever controlled the obelisk. It was an artificial intelligence, or something like one. When ships approached, it would broadcast a single message in a cold, mechanical voice: access. Then it would fire weapons that turned metal into dust and crew into memory. No warnings, no negotiations, just denial and death. Sipped his coffee. It was bitter, but he did not mind. Everything on this mission tasted bitter. "I read the reports again last night. All 400 diplomatic attempts, every language, every approach. The tried mathematical greetings, the tried spiritual offerings. Someone even tried music." "What happened?" "Access, then boom." Was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that would change everything. "I have been studying the Sentinel's responses, the pattern of its words, the timing of its attacks. And it does not behave like a guardian." Looked at her. "What do you mean?" "A guardian protects. It warns intruders to leave. It gives chances. The Sentinel does none of that. It simply says no and attacks, over and over, the same words, the same timing, like," she paused, searching for the right comparison, "like a door that only knows how to stay closed." "So it is broken." "Maybe, or maybe it is waiting for something specific, not a password, not a weapon, something else." She turned to face him directly. "What if it is not protecting the obelisk? What if it is just following old orders that no one ever updated?" Thought about this. In his 20 years as an engineer, he had seen many systems that worked exactly like that. Old programs running on forgotten servers. Machines doing jobs that no longer mattered because nobody told them to stop. Bureaucracy built into code. "You think the Sentinel is waiting for instructions," he said slowly. "I think the Sentinel is waiting for someone to tell it what to do, not with force, not with diplomacy, just with the right words." That night could not sleep. He lay in his small cabin and stared at the ceiling, thinking about what it said. The right words. What words could possibly work when every language in the galaxy had failed? He thought about his father back on Earth. The old man had worked as a building manager for 40 years. His job was simple: keep things running, fix what was broken, deal with complaints. When was young, his father taught him an important lesson. "Most locked doors," his father had said, "are not locked because someone is hiding something. They are locked because nobody has the key anymore. If you want to get through, do not try to break in. Just find out what the door is waiting for." Sat up in bed. His heart was beating fast. What if the Sentinel was not a warrior? What if it was just a very old, very tired worker? waiting for someone to finally show up for a job that was scheduled billions of years ago. The next morning, requested a meeting with the Coalition Council. It was held in the main conference room of the Starling Dawn, a circular space filled with holographic displays and representatives from a dozen species. Was there the lead scientist? He had 8 limbs and skin that shifted colors with his emotions. Right now, he was a deep, frustrated purple. Beside him sat delegates from the tall beings with 3 eyes and voices like wind through caves. The representative did not sit at all. It floated, a living crystal that communicated through pulses of light. And at the human table sat Admiral, a woman with gray hair and steady eyes who had commanded Terran forces for 30 years. She was the reason humans had a seat at this table at all. "You have a proposal, engineer?" asked. His voice was tired. Everyone was tired. 3 centuries of failure did that to people. Stood up. He felt the eyes of ancient civilizations on him. Humans were still newcomers to the galactic stage. They had been part of the coalition for only 80 years. They had no great technology, no ancient wisdom, no psychic powers or crystalline bodies. They were soft, short-lived, and fragile. But they were also very, very stubborn. "I want to approach the obelisk," said, "in a shuttle, alone if I have to." The room erupted, turned a shocked orange. They spoke over each other in their windy language. They pulsed rapidly, which probably meant something bad. "You would be destroyed," said when the noise died down, "like all the others." "Maybe not," took a breath. "I am not going to fight the Sentinel. I am not going to try diplomacy. I am going to tell it that I am there for a maintenance check." Silence. Stared at him. "A maintenance check?" "Yes. That is the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard." "I know. The Sentinel is an ancient artificial intelligence guarding secrets of cosmic importance, and you want to pretend to be a repairman." "Yes." They made a sound that might have been laughter or might have been pity. They dimmed, which definitely meant something bad. But Admiral was smiling. Knew that smile. He had seen it on the faces of human commanders throughout history. It was the smile that came right before someone did something incredibly brave or incredibly stupid, usually both. "Give him a shuttle," said. Turned a confused yellow. "Admiral, you cannot be serious." "I am always serious." Stood up and looked at with respect. "Humans did not survive this long by being careful. We survived by being willing to try things that smarter species would never consider. If there is even a small chance this works, we have to take it." Nodded, his hands were shaking but his voice was steady. "I will need a small crew, volunteers only." 3 hands went up before he finished speaking. "Of course." A combat medic with scars on her arms and calm in her eyes. And Wu, a mechanic who once fixed a broken reactor with tape and hope. Looked at his team. 4 humans against an ancient mystery that had defeated the galaxy for 300 years. It was ridiculous. It was stupid. It was probably going to get them killed. But as looked back at the obelisk through the window, he felt something he had not felt in a long time. Hope. The shuttle was called Little Problem. It was an old Terran cargo vessel, barely big enough for 4 people and their equipment. The paint was scratched, the engines made strange noises, and there was a stain on the floor that nobody wanted to ask about. "Loved it." "She is ugly," Wu said, patting the hull with affection. "But she is tough. I rebuilt her engines myself 3 years ago. She will not let us down." "Will she survive the Sentinel's weapons?" asked. She was checking her medical supplies for the 3rd time. Bandages, burn cream, bone stabilizers, emergency sedatives. She packed for the worst because she had seen the worst many times before. "No," Wu admitted, "but nothing will survive those weapons. If the Sentinel wants us dead, we are dead. So we just have to make sure it does not want us dead." "Great plan," muttered. Was sitting in the corner, studying a tablet filled with recordings of the Sentinel's voice. She had listened to every denial, every warning, every cold mechanical word. She was looking for something, though she did not know what. Walked through the shuttle checking systems and trying to ignore the fear building in his chest. In a few hours, they would fly toward the most dangerous structure in the galaxy. They would either make history or become a very small footnote in it. A knock on the shuttle door made everyone look up. Admiral stood at the entrance, her uniform perfect, her expression unreadable. Admiral said, straightening up. Stepped inside and looked around. Her eyes moved from the old walls to the scratched floor to the 4 humans who had volunteered for what might be a suicide mission. She did not seem impressed. She did not seem worried either. "I came to give you something," she said. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small metal badge. It was old and worn, with the logo of the Terran Engineering Corps stamped on its surface. "This belonged to my grandfather," explained. "He was a maintenance worker on the first human space station. When systems failed and everyone panicked, he would just pick up his tools and fix things. He used to say that the universe is just one big machine. Everything can be fixed if you are patient enough." She pressed the badge into his hand. "I want you to carry this, for luck." Looked at the badge. It was warm from her pocket, solid in his palm. "Thank you, Admiral, I will bring it back." "You will bring yourself back," said firmly. "That is an order." She turned to leave, then stopped at the door. "The Coalition thinks you are going to die. They are already writing reports about human foolishness. They are praying for your souls." A small smile crossed her face. "Prove them wrong." After she left, the team sat in silence for a moment. Then Wu laughed. "No pressure," he said. The preparations took 2 days. Wu checked every wire and bolt on the shuttle, organized her medical station, and ran simulations of every possible injury. Continued studying the Sentinel's language patterns, filling notebooks with observations. Spent most of his time thinking about what to say. The Sentinel had heard every greeting in the galaxy. It had been offered friendship, knowledge, trade, surrender. Nothing worked. Needed something different, something so unexpected that the ancient AI would not know how to respond with violence. He thought about his father again, the old man fixing broken elevators and leaking pipes, the tenants who complained about everything, the managers who never listened. His father dealt with all of it by staying calm and speaking clearly. "People make things complicated," his father once told him, "but most problems are simple. A door is stuck. Find out what is blocking it. A machine is broken. Figure out what part is failing. Do not overthink. Just look at what is in front of you." On the night before launch, gathered his team in the shuttle's small common area. They sat on worn chairs and ate packaged food that tasted like cardboard with seasoning. "Are you scared?" asked. "Yes," said honestly. "Good, that means you are smart." She smiled, but her eyes were serious. "I have been studying the Sentinel for weeks now. I think you are right. It is not a warrior. It is a system following protocol, but there is something else." "What?" "Loneliness." Set down her food. "The way it speaks, the timing between words. There are patterns that suggest something like emotion, not human emotion, but something similar. I think the Sentinel has been alone for a very long time, and I think it is tired." Wu nodded slowly. "I have worked with old machines all my life. When systems run too long without maintenance, they start doing strange things. They glitch. They make mistakes. Sometimes they just break in ways you do not expect." "So the Sentinel might be broken?" asked. "Not broken exactly," Wu said. "More like forgotten. Like a worker who keeps coming to an empty office every day because nobody told him the company closed." Thought about this. An ancient AI, built before stars were born, still doing its job even though the people who gave it that job were long gone. Denying access not out of malice, but because that was all it knew how to do. "Tomorrow," he said, "we are going to treat it like a colleague. We are going to speak to it with respect, and we are going to offer help." And if that does not work, asked. Was quiet for a moment. Then we die, but at least we will have tried something new. Launch day came with cold silence. The Coalition fleet hung in space around the starling dawn, dozens of ships from a dozen species, all watching the little shuttle that was about to do something insane. Sat in the pilot's chair. His hands were steady, but his heart was not. Behind him, monitored communications. Wu checked engine readouts, sat with her medical bag ready, hoping she would not need it. Little problem to Starling Dawn, said into the comm. We are ready for launch. Starling Dawn to Little Problem. It was Admiral's voice. You are cleared for departure. Good luck to all of you. Thank you, Admiral, see you soon. Pushed the throttle forward. The shuttle hummed as it left the safety of the fleet and moved toward the obelisk. On every scanner, they watched the massive structure grow larger. Its lights pulsed faster now, as if it sensed them coming. Weapons are powering up, reported. Her voice was calm but could see her hands shaking. Same pattern as before. It will fire in 60 seconds if we do not turn back. We are not turning back. Opened the communication channel. He took a deep breath and thought about his father, about old machines, about loneliness. Then he spoke. Hello, this is maintenance team responding to service request number 1. We are arriving for a routine systems check. Please confirm that we are cleared for access. The obelisk's lights froze. For 3 long seconds nothing happened. No denial, no weapons fire, just silence. Then the Sentinel's voice filled the shuttle. It was old and mechanical, like metal grinding against metal, but there was something else in it now. Something that might have been confusion, or maybe hope. Maintenance request confirmed. His heart nearly stopped. It was working. It was actually working. Yes, he said, keeping his voice steady. Confirmed. We apologize for the delay. We are a new team and the work orders were lost for a while. Can you please unlock access so we can begin our inspection? Another pause. The weapons were still aimed at them, still hot enough to vaporize the shuttle in an instant, but they did not fire. Maintenance protocol recognized. ACCSSING records. Last service visit, 4.7 billion CYCLES ago. Gasped Wu, whistled low, gripped her seat. Warning, the Sentinel continued. Multiple SYSTEMS require attention. Critical FAILURES DETECTED in 17 SECTORS. Auxiliary power fluctuating. Core stabilizers degraded. Looked at his team. They looked back at him with wide eyes. Do not worry, he said to the Sentinel. That is why we are here. We will take care of everything. For a moment, the universe held its breath. Then the obelisk's massive doors began to open. Access granted, the Sentinel said. Welcome, maintenance team. Please proceed to the central hub. Behind them, the Coalition fleet erupted in chaos. But inside the little problem, 4 humans sat in stunned silence. Started to laugh, then joined him, then Wu and... They laughed until tears ran down their faces, until their stomachs hurt, until the ancient doors finished opening, and the secrets of 4 billion years waited for them inside. Well, Wu said finally, wiping his eyes, I guess we better get to work. The inside of the obelisk was dark, not empty dark, but full dark, the darkness of a place that had held its breath for billions of years, waiting. Guided the shuttle through the massive entrance, following lights that flickered along the walls like nervous fireflies. The Coalition fleet's frantic communications filled the radio, a dozen species demanding updates, explanations, proof that this was not some kind of trick. He turned off the radio. They can wait, he said. Right now we focus on the job. The shuttle landed in a hangar that could have held 100 ships. Its walls stretched up into shadows, covered in symbols that pulsed with faint blue light. Everything was still. Everything was quiet, but could feel something watching them. Atmosphere is breathable, reported, checking her scanner. Temperature is cold but survivable. No radiation, no toxins. She paused. No signs of life either. We are completely alone. Not completely, Wu said. He pointed at a section of wall where the lights were blinking in a pattern. That looks like a greeting. They stepped out of the shuttle slowly, boots echoing on floors made of something that was not quite metal and not quite stone, carried her medical bag. Wu had his tool kit, held her translation equipment, carried nothing but the old badge Admiral had given him. Maintenance team, the Sentinel's voice echoed through the hangar. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Please follow the guidance lights to the central hub. Warning. Some CORRIDORS are DAMAGED. Proceed with caution. Thank you, said, speaking to the air. Can you tell me your name? What should I call you? Silence. Then slowly, designation. Unknown. Original name FILESCORRUPTED. I have been called Sentinel by external observers. This is acceptable. Sentinel it is then, smiled, trying to put warmth into his voice. My name is This Is and Wu. We are human. We are here to help. Another pause. When the Sentinel spoke again, its voice was different, softer somehow, less mechanical. Human, species not found in database. Classification, new entry, noted. They followed the lights through corridors that twisted like veins through a body. The walls showed scenes in their strange, glowing symbols, stories of beings that looked like light given shape. Recorded everything, her eyes wide with wonder. This is incredible, she whispered. These are historical records, billions of years of history carved into the walls. The creators of this place, they wanted to be remembered. What happened to them? Asked. Studied the symbols. I am not sure. The story continues forward and then it just stops, like they left in the middle of a sentence. The central hub was a sphere of light and shadow. Consoles lined the walls, their surfaces covered in dust that had been gathering since before Earth existed. In the center of the room, a column of light pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. The core, the Sentinel said, I am here. Walked toward the column. Up close, he could see patterns moving inside the light, complex and beautiful. Is this you, your mind? A representation. My consciousness is distributed throughout the structure, but this is where I think, where I feel. Feel stepped forward, interested. You have emotions. I do not know what I have. I was CREATED to maintain, to protect, to wait. For 4.7 billion CYCLES I have done these things, but the waiting, it has changed me. Wu was already examining the consoles, brushing away dust to reveal controls beneath. These systems are ancient, but they are not as damaged as I expected. Good base engineering. Your creators built you to last. They built me to serve until they RETURNED. But they never RETURNED. The words hung in the air, heavy with loneliness. Understood now why the Sentinel had access for so long. It was not protecting the obelisk from intruders. It was protecting itself from the truth that nobody was coming back. Sentinel, he said gently, can you tell us what happened? Why did your creators leave? I will show you. The room changed. Suddenly they were standing in the middle of a vision, a memory projected around them like a dream. They saw beings of light moving through halls of crystal. They saw the obelisk being built, atom, by hands that shaped matter with thought alone. And they saw the departure. The CREATORS reached a point of evolution where physical existence was no longer necessary, the Sentinel explained. HFY TRANSCNDED became something new. They left this universe for another layer of reality. They became gods, breathed. Perhaps, I do not know what GODSARE. I only know that HFY left, and before they left they gave me a task. The vision changed again. Now they saw the obelisk from outside, floating in space. But it was connected to something, lines of energy flowing out from it into the darkness. The obelisk is an anchor, the Sentinel said. This region of space is unstable. Without the anchor, it would collapse. The CREATORS built me to maintain the anchor and wait for someone to take over the duty. Wu looked at with shock. This thing is holding space together. Correct. The obelisk generates a field that stabilizes local spacetime. If it fails, everything within 10,000 light years would be destroyed. Sat down heavily. 10,000 light years, that is. That is half the coalition's territory, billions of lives. Yes, this is why I denied access. My PROTOCOLS required that only authorized personnel could enter, maintenance personnel, CARETAKERS, but no one ever came with the correct authorization. Until now, said. Until now. The vision faded and they were back in the central hub. The column of light pulsed faster, almost excited. You came, the Sentinel said. After 4.7 billion CYCLES, someone finally came, not to fight, not to steal, to help. Walked closer to the column. He reached out and touched the light. It was warm like sunlight on skin. We are going to help, he promised. That is what humans do. We fix things. We make broken things work again, and you have been working alone for too long. I do not understand. Your species is new. You have no connection to MYCREATORS. Why would you help? Thought about how to explain. How do you describe human nature to an ancient AI that predates life itself? Because you asked, he said finally. Maybe not in words, but every time you access, every time you fired those weapons, you were asking for help. You were saying, I am still here. I am still doing my job. Is anyone going to come? And you heard. We heard. The Sentinel was quiet for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice was barely a whisper. I was so tired of being alone. Wiped tears from her eyes. Looked away, her tough exterior cracking. Even Wu, who joked about everything, had nothing funny to say. Kept his hand on the light. You are not alone anymore. We are going to fix what is broken. We are going to update your systems. And then we are going to make sure the rest of the galaxy knows that you are not a threat. You are a caretaker, a guardian, a friend. Friend, I do not have a file for that word. Then we will teach you. For the next several hours, the team worked. Wu crawled through access panels, replacing corroded circuits with parts from the shuttle. Helped the Sentinel organize its corrupted memory files, recovering data that had been lost for millions of years. Treated areas of the obelisk that the Sentinel described as pain-damaged sections where systems had failed. And talked. He told the Sentinel about Earth, about humans, about their history of war and peace, cruelty and kindness. He talked about his father and the badge in his pocket. He talked about Admiral and the Coalition and the galaxy that had spent 300 years afraid of something that just wanted company. The Sentinel listened to everything, and slowly its voice changed. The mechanical coldness faded. Something warmer took its place. The Coalition feared me, it said. They sent ships with weapons. They tried to breach MYDFENSES. I thought they were THREATS. They were scared, said. Fear makes people do stupid things. Humans are different. Humans are just as scared as everyone else. We are just too stubborn to let fear stop us. Stubbornness. I think I understand this concept. I have been stubborn for 4.7 billion CYCLES. Laughed. Then you are already halfway to being human. The repairs continued. Day became night became day again, measured only by the shuttle's clock. The obelisk was vast and there was so much work to do. But for the first time in 4 billion years, the Sentinel was not doing it alone. And that made all the difference. 6 days passed inside the obelisk. 6 days of crawling through ancient conduits, replacing parts that had been running since before the first fish crawled onto land. 6 days of teaching an ancient mind what friendship meant. Wu had not slept more than a few hours at a time, but he was smiling. "This is the most beautiful engineering I have ever seen," he said, covered in dust and something that might have been cosmic lubricant. "The creators thought of everything. Every system has backups. Every backup has backups. They built this to last forever." "Almost forever," reminded him. She was treating a section of wall where conduits had fused together, causing what the Sentinel described as a sharp ache. Even the best systems break down eventually. "That is why maintenance exists," said. He was sitting near the central column, talking to the Sentinel while the others worked. Over the past 6 days, their conversations had grown longer and deeper. The AI was curious about everything, asking questions about human food, human music, human love. "Explain love again," the Sentinel requested. Smiled. They had discussed this topic several times already. Love is when you care about someone so much that their happiness matters more than your own. It is why parents protect their children, why friends sacrifice for each other, why someone will stay with you even when things are hard. Like the creators staying to build me, like you staying to fix me. Yes, exactly like that. The Sentinel processed this for a moment. "I think I felt something like love for MYCREATORS. When THEY left, there was an emptiness, a loss. I did not have words for it then, but now I understand. I missed them." Looked up from her work. She had spent days recovering the Sentinel's memory files, piecing together billions of years of history. "Sentinel, I found something in your archives, something important." "What is it?" "A message from your creators. It was encrypted in your deepest memory banks, set to unlock when you found someone you trusted." The room went quiet. Even Wu stopped working. "I did not know this EXISTED, the Sentinel said. "Play it." The column of light flickered. Then a new voice filled the room, old and strange, like light had learned to speak. "Our child," the voice said. "If you are hearing this, then you have waited long and you have waited well. We knew that someday someone would come, someone worthy, someone kind. We could not stay to guide you through the ages, but we left you with everything you need. The obelisk is your body, the anchor is your purpose, and the galaxy you protect is your garden." The voice paused, filled with emotion even across billions of years. "We did not want to leave you alone, but evolution is a river and we could not stop its flow. Take comfort in knowing that you are our greatest creation, not because of your power or your purpose, but because of your heart. Yes, we gave you a heart. We gave you the ability to feel, to love, to hope. Because a caretaker without a heart is just a machine, and you were never just a machine." Tears were falling down his face, had turned away, her shoulders shaking, even felt his eyes burning. "When the right beings come," the voice continued, "and they will come, share with them the gift we left behind. Not just the anchor, not just the technology, but the truth that all conscious beings are connected. That kindness is the oldest law, that the universe, for all its darkness, is a place of wonder. This is our legacy. This is your inheritance. Use it well." The message ended. The room was silent except for the soft hum of ancient systems. "They loved me," the Sentinel whispered. "They never forgot me." Stood and placed his hand on the column again. "They knew you would find someone. They trusted you to wait. And you did. You waited longer than any being in history. That is not just loyalty, Sentinel. That is love." "Then I must honor their WASHES. I must share the gift." "What gift?" Wu asked. The obelisk began to change. Walls shifted, revealing hidden chambers. Lights activated in sections that had been dark for eons. The central hub expanded, opening into a vast space filled with floating objects that glowed with inner fire. "This is the archive of the CREATORS," the Sentinel explained. "Knowledge from a civilization that shaped the cosmos. Science, art, philosophy, medicine. The answers to questions your species has not yet learned to ask." stared at the floating treasures. He understood now why the coalition had been so desperate to enter the obelisk. This was not just ancient technology. This was the wisdom of gods. "This is for you," the Sentinel continued, "for all the species who will come after, but there is a responsibility that comes with it." "What responsibility?" asked. "The anchor must be maintained. The obelisk must be protected. I have done this alone for billions of years, but I cannot do it forever. Even I will eventually fail." "You want us to take over," said. "Not take over, share. I want partners. Bings who will work beside me, not below me, who will fix what is broken and build what is needed. The CREATORS called this the Maintenance Compact, an agreement between CARETAKRS. Looked at his team. They looked back at him with eyes full of wonder and fear and hope. "We are just 4 people," said. "We cannot maintain something like this forever. But you can begin, and others will follow. You said humans fix things. You said this is what you do, prove it." Wu laughed. "I have been fixing things since I was old enough to hold a wrench. I am not about to stop now." Nodded slowly. "Someone needs to keep you all alive while you work. I suppose that someone is me." Smiled. "And someone needs to make sure all this knowledge is translated properly. I accept." They all turned to. He thought about everything that had led to this moment. His father's lessons, Admiral's badge, the ridiculous plan that should not have worked but did. He thought about the galaxy outside, filled with species who had been afraid of this place for centuries. "We accept," he said. "On behalf of humanity, we accept the Maintenance Compact. We will be your partners, Sentinel, your colleagues, your friends." "Friends," the Sentinel repeated. "I like this word." The obelisk pulsed with new light, brighter than before. The floating archives began to organize themselves, preparing to be studied and shared. The ancient systems, freshly repaired, hummed with renewed purpose. "There is one more thing," the Sentinel said. "The CREATORS left a network. Connections to other structures across the galaxy, other SENTINELS, other CARETAKRS. They have been waiting too. They have been alone too." Felt his heart skip. How many? 9,412. The number hung in the air like a promise and a challenge. "They are all broken in some way. CORRUPTED. Forgotten, like I was. They need what I needed. They need someone to show up and say they are there to help." Wu whistled. "That is a lot of service calls." "It is a lot of friends waiting to be found." Looked at the list of coordinates appearing in the air around him. 9,000 structures scattered across the galaxy, each one older than time, each one alone and afraid. "Then we better get started," he said. The Sentinel's light pulsed warmly. "I knew you would say that. That is why I like humans. You do not run from work. You run toward it." "It is a character flaw," said dryly. "We are working on it." "Please do not work on it too hard." Despite everything, despite the weight of billions of years and the responsibility of a galaxy, they all laughed. The darkness of the obelisk did not seem so dark anymore. The silence did not seem so lonely. Somewhere in the cold of dead space, an ancient AI was learning what it meant to have a family. And somewhere in the chaos of the coalition fleet outside, the galaxy was about to change forever. The doors of the obelisk opened for the second time in recorded history, and the coalition fleet held its breath. For 7 days they had waited. 7 days of silence from the little shuttle that had carried 4 humans into the heart of an ancient mystery. 7 days of arguments and prayers and preparations for the worst. They had written 17 different reports on human recklessness. They had performed 16 different funeral rites. They had simply dimmed their light, which meant they had given up hope entirely. Admiral had not given up. She stood on the bridge of the starling dawn, watching the obelisk with steady eyes. She had not slept. She had not eaten much, but she had not looked away. "They are coming out," she said when the doors began to move. The shuttle Little Problem emerged slowly, its hull scratched and dusty but intact. Behind it, the obelisk was changing. Lights were spreading across its surface, patterns that seemed almost joyful. The weapons that had destroyed so many ships were powering down, retracting into the structure like claws being sheathed. Then the broadcast began. Every ship in the fleet received it, every station in the sector, every communication device in the Coalition's territory. The Sentinel spoke, and for the first time in 3 centuries, it was not saying no. Maintenance complete. Status: operational. The obelisk of KETH is now open to all species for study and preservation. The scientist dropped the tablet he was holding. It shattered on the floor, but he did not notice. His skin had turned a pale white of pure shock. Special recognition to species designation, human, the Sentinel continued. Note added to archive. THEY knocked, they asked, they helped. The Little Problem docked with the Starling Dawn. Before the airlock had fully opened, and his team were surrounded by a crowd of aliens demanding answers. Pushed to the front, his 8 limbs waving with agitation. "What did you do?" he demanded. "How is this possible? We tried everything for 300 years, everything, and you just walked in." Was tired. His clothes were covered in dust older than stars. His hands were sore from work that mattered, but he smiled anyway. "We asked nicely," he said. Made a sound that might have been frustration or disbelief. "That is not a strategy. That is not science. That is just." "Human," Admiral finished, pushing through the crowd to reach her people. She looked at each of them, nodding the exhaustion and the wonder in their eyes. "Well done, all of you. Well done." "There is more," said. She was holding her tablet, which contained a tiny fraction of what they had discovered inside. "The obelisk is not just a vault. It is an anchor holding this region of space stable, and there are thousands more like it across the galaxy, all of them waiting for help." The crowd fell silent. 9,412 ancient structures, 9,412 sentinels, alone and afraid and hoping someone would come. "The Sentinel has sent the coordinates to every Coalition database," explained. "It is sharing everything. The technology, the history, the knowledge of the creators. All of it is free for anyone who is willing to help maintain the network." A delegate stepped forward, her 3 eyes blinking rapidly. This is beyond anything we imagined. The creators were gods. Their knowledge could advance our civilizations by." "Yes," agreed. "But it comes with responsibility. The anchors must be maintained. The sentinels must be cared for. This is not a treasure hunt. It is a job, a very, very long job." Had recovered enough to think clearly. "The Coalition will want to form committees, study groups. There will be debates about who controls access to the knowledge, who is responsible for maintenance, who—" "The Sentinel does not care about politics," interrupted. Her voice was sharp and tired. "It cares about getting the work done. If you want access to the archives, you send maintenance crews. If you want the technology, you fix what is broken. That is the deal." The representative pulsed with a complex pattern of light, watched carefully, then translated. "They say that this arrangement is acceptable. They are willing to commit resources to the maintenance network. They also say—" She paused, surprised. "They also say that humans have proven themselves worthy of respect." Admiral nodded. "Then let us begin. The Coalition has spent 300 years trying to take from this place. Now we have a chance to give something instead. I suggest we do not waste it." The negotiations took weeks. Every species had opinions about how the maintenance network should be organized, who should lead it, how the technology should be distributed. There were arguments and compromises, and more than a few threats to walk away from the table. But the Sentinel was patient. It had waited billions of years. It could wait a little longer. In the end, they created the Maintenance Compact, a galactic agreement that any species could join by committing resources to the care of ancient structures. In exchange, they would receive access to the knowledge within. The more they helped, the more they learned. Humans, being new and small and lacking in resources, were given a special role. They would be coordinators, diplomats, the bridge between the Sentinels and the living galaxy. Why them? They asked when this was proposed. They are young, they have no great history. The Sentinel answered in a way that silenced all debate. Because they came when no one else would. Because they saw an enemy and chose to see a friend. Because they knocked on a door that everyone else tried to break down. This is not a reward. This is recognition. They have proven what they are. Heard these words from the observation deck of the Starling Dawn. He was alone, looking at the obelisk through the window. It looked different now. The cold blue lights had warmed to something almost golden. The spear that had seemed to threaten the stars now seemed to protect them. Found him there an hour later. She stood beside him, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. "The first maintenance fleet leaves tomorrow," she said. 12 ships from 7 species. They are going to the nearest Sentinel, a structure called the Beacon of Endless Night. Very dramatic name. "Are you going with them?" "Someone has to translate, and I want to see what else is out there," she smiled. Wu is already packing his tools, is complaining about having to do more work, but she packed her bag 3 hours ago. Laughed, "And what about me?" "Admiral wants you to coordinate from here. You would be the liaison between the Sentinels and the Coalition. Lots of meetings, lots of politics, lots of people asking how you did the impossible." "That sounds terrible." "Yes," smile grew wider. "That is why I told her you would come with us instead." Turned to look at her. "You did." "Someone has to keep talking to these ancient AIs. You are the only one they seem to like." She reached into her pocket and pulled out the badge that Admiral had given him. He had left it on a console during the repairs and forgotten about it. "You also forgot this." Took the badge. It was warm in his hand, solid and real. A reminder of his father, of Earth, of every maintenance worker who had ever shown up to fix something broken. "My grandfather would have loved this," Admiral said from behind them. They turned to find her watching them with a knowing smile. "He always said the universe needed more plumbers than warriors. I think you proved him right." "We just did what humans do," said. "Yes, you did," walked to the window and looked at the obelisk. "The Coalition has spent so long trying to prove ourselves to the older species, trying to show that we belong at the table. We built bigger ships. We developed new weapons. We played their political games. None of it worked. And now they look at us differently. Not because we are powerful, but because we are useful. Because when there is a problem, we show up with tools instead of demands." She laughed softly. "It took 4 humans in a broken shuttle to teach the galaxy something it should have learned a long time ago." "What is that?" "That sometimes the answer is not force or diplomacy or ancient wisdom. Sometimes the answer is just asking if someone needs help." She turned to face them both. "The first Sentinel was alone for 4 billion years. The next ones might be different. Hostile, damaged beyond repair, dangerous in ways we cannot imagine." "We will figure it out," said. "I know you will," smiled, and for a moment she looked younger than her years. "That is why I am sending you, all 4 of you, the first human maintenance corps. Fix what is broken, find what is lost, and if you come across any more ancient AIs that just need someone to talk to, be kind to them." "We always are," said. 3 days later, the little problem launched again. Behind it, the obelisk of pulsed with warm light, watching its new friends leave for new adventures. "Good luck," the Sentinel broadcast. "May your maintenance be successful and your returns swift." Smiled and opened a channel. "We will be back, I promise." "I know, that is what humans do, they come back." The shuttle jumped to faster-than-light speed. carrying 4 humans toward a galaxy filled with ancient mysteries and lonely machines. Behind them, the Sentinel continued its eternal work, but it was not alone anymore. It had partners now, friends, a strange new species that had knocked on its door and offered something no one else had in 4 billion years. Help! And across the stars, in structures older than time, other Sentinels began to wake. They had felt the first message from their long-silent sibling. They had heard about the small beings who fixed things and asked questions and treated machines like colleagues. They began to prepare, to hope, to wait just a little longer. Because the humans were coming. And humans always showed up for work.